They said she was cursed, that wherever she went, misfortune followed like her shadow. When the prince came to choose a bride, they told her she didn't belong among royalty candidates and sent her to fetch water like a common maid. The others powdered their faces and practiced fake smiles, dancing around the palace like peacocks trying to impress the sun. But fate, oh, that wicked comedian, had a surprise waiting for her by the river that morning. Now, the full story. The rooster had not even cleared his throat to crow when Ella was already awake, dragging her tired body across the compound like a ghost on duty. One hand held a dented bucket with no handle, the other gripped a broom that had seen better days. Her eyes were red, her stomach complained like a hungry goat, and her knees wobbled like a tired generator. But could she rest? God forbid. Rest in that house was a luxury meant for her stepmother's cat. She bent down to scrub the veranda with cold water fetched from the stream, whispering a quiet prayer only she in heaven could hear. Lord, let today pass in peace. No wahala, no shouting. But peace had long packed its bags and left that house the day her mother died. Before she could squeeze the rag dry, a familiar voice pierced the silence like an evil trumpet. Ella, you're still there? Who will wash the toilet? Who will warm the water? Abby, you're waiting for your ancestors to help you? Useless girl. Her stepmother's voice had a special talent. It could wake the dead, melt ice, and still have energy left to cause high blood pressure. Ella jumped up, grabbed her bucket, and ran toward the backyard before the woman's slipper could locate her face. By the time the sun was crawling out from behind the hills, Ella had already fetched 2 buckets of water from the stream, swept the entire compound, washed dishes for 6 humans and 1 fat cat, and plucked scent leaves for breakfast stew, all before her empty stomach saw even a crumb of bread. But life hadn't always been this miserable. There was a time laughter lived in that compound. When her mother Margaret was alive, the house smelled of pepper soup, perfume, and happiness. Her laughter could chase away mosquitoes, her voice could calm her husband, Chief Chima, and her hands, those hands could fix anything, from torn wrappers to broken hearts. Ella remembered her mother's arms, soft, warm, safe. But death came like a thief in the night and carried that warmth away before Ella could open her eyes that morning. After Margaret died, Chief Benson changed completely. The man who used to whistle while bathing now sat under the mango tree every evening, staring into the air like he was watching invisible television. He stopped talking, stopped smiling, stopped living. He just chewed chewing stick and blinked at the sky as if waiting for his dead wife to text him from heaven. The villagers began to gossip, because of course, Nigerians will always hold a meeting over other people's sorrow. Chief is still young now. This small girl can't raise herself. He needs to marry again, before that child turns wild. And so, they introduced Madame Veronica, the woman with a fake smile and sugar-coated tongue. At first, she came like an angel, brought Ella new clothes, called her my sweetheart, even plaited her hair and fed her rice with her own hands. Ella's heart nearly burst with joy. She told everyone in the village, "My new mummy is better than my old mummy." Poor child. She didn't know she was rehearsing for her own heartbreak. Everything changed the day Madame Veronica gave birth to her own daughter, Melody, a fair-skinned, chubby child with cheeks like meat pie. From that day, love in that house became one-sided. First, the pet names disappeared. Then the insults started tiptoeing in. Ella, are you blind? Ella, why is your leg walking before your brain? Ella, can't you see how your sister is shining? You're just dull. Before long, the shouting turned to slaps, and the slaps became a daily devotion. Chief Benson? He sat under his mango tree as usual, chewing stick and pretending not to hear a thing. The man had mastered the art of selective hearing. One evening, Ella gathered courage and sat beside him. Papa, please, Mama Veronica beats me every day. He didn't even look at her, just said, "Be respectful, my daughter," and continued peeling his orange like it was more important than her tears. That was the night something broke inside her. From then on, she stopped complaining. She stopped expecting love. She just existed. Ella worked the work meant for 3 adults, fetching water from a faraway stream, carrying firewood 7 times a day, and washing clothes till her fingers wrinkled like old yam. Madame Veronica, on the other hand, was living her best life. Nails painted, hair done, fanning herself under the umbrella like the queen of laziness. One day, Ella knelt and begged. "Mummy Vero, please let me go back to school. I'll still do my chores." Madame Veronica laughed so hard she almost rolled on the floor. "School? What again do you want to learn after secondary school? University is not for you? You think you'll ever be somebody? Abeg, face your work. Melody is the one with a future here." Chief Benson? He didn't even blink, just chewed his stick and stared into space. That was the moment Ella made up her mind. They said I'm bad luck? Fine, I'll be quiet. I'll survive it. And so, she endured. Through the hunger, the insults, and the beatings, till her skin toughened like the soles of her feet. Nature, that mischievous playwright, had other plans for Ella. Years passed. The young girl who once cried behind the compound grew into a young woman whose beauty didn't need advertisement. It wasn't the loud, makeup-dripping type the market girls flaunted on Instagram. No, hers was calm, quiet, the kind of beauty that sneaks up on you and refuses to leave your mind. Her skin glowed like cocoa butter under sunlight, even though she never owned one. Her eyes, bright, deep, and innocent, carried the kind of sadness that could make even a heartless man pause. When she smiled, which was rare, people said stones could melt. And just like that, men started noticing her. Suitors began to appear. From neighboring towns, from the city, even one fine boy that returned from abroad with an accent thicker than ogbono soup. But before any of them could even clear their throat to say, "Chief Chima, good afternoon, sir," Madame Veronica would appear like a spirit with her evil-smelling perfume and her fake smile. "My dear," she would whisper, holding the man's hand dramatically, "I pity you. That girl, she's not all right in the head. Sometimes she stares at the wall for hours. At her age, she still wets the bed. Her mother was a marine woman. Maybe she inherited it." Then she would touch her chest, pretending to cry softly. "But me, I've raised her with love. It's just that she's not normal." And as if that wasn't enough, she'd quickly change topic and start selling her own daughter, Melody. "Now my Melody, she's the real deal. Polite, educated, trained abroad, even her perfume smells like future wife material." By the time Madame Veronica finished her market strategy, the poor suitor would vanish like Nepa light during rainfall. Ella would just watch them from the kitchen window, her hands still covered in soap suds, her heart sinking with every departing footstep. No tears, no shouting, just that silent pain that burns more than fire. "Maybe this is my destiny," she would whisper to herself sometimes. "Maybe I was born to fetch water and wash plates till I die." But even in that heartbreak, she never hated anyone. Not her sister Melody, who got treated like royalty, not her stepmother, who used her like a rag, and not even her father, Chief Chima, who behaved as if his tongue was permanently glued to silence. She just endured. Then one fateful afternoon when the sun felt like it had personal beef with humans. The air was thick. The dust on the road danced like it was in a trance. Even goats were too tired to bleat. Ella balanced a yellow jerrycan on her head, beads of sweat rolling down her temples. Her feet were dusty, her wrapper clung to her like second skin, and her back ached like she carried Nigeria's problems on her shoulders. But her eyes, her eyes were alive, focused, strong. As usual, she was coming from the stream alone. Nobody ever offered to help. Even the village boys who once admired her now avoided her gaze. It wasn't because she wasn't fine. They just didn't know how to face a girl who looked like suffering had made her its best friend. She was almost at the compound gate when a sudden sound froze her. "O genie, drums," followed by the trumpet of royal messengers echoing across the village. "Gather round! Gather round!" one of the guards shouted, chest puffed out like he owned the kingdom. "All households with maidens, come out and hear the king's message." Villagers ran out in confusion and excitement. Ella placed her jerrycan on the ground and wiped her forehead, curiosity lighting her tired face. The tallest guard raised his staff and announced with pride, "Prince Jakes, son of our great King Charles, has returned from England to choose a bride. In 7 days there shall be a royal dance competition, and whoever the prince's heart chooses shall become his wife." You would think they just shared free rice the way the crowd screamed. Women started dancing and clapping. Some even removed their wrappers and waved them in the air. Girls rushed home like mad ants to start preparing. Some ran to the tailor, others to the market, and some started rubbing bleaching cream immediately. No time to waste when destiny is calling. Ella stood on the roadside, her mouth slightly open, her heart beating like drumbeat. Maybe, just maybe. But hope, as usual, didn't last long in that house. The moment she entered their compound, Madame Veronica's voice hit her like a thunderstorm. God don't remember us. Melody, your time has come. You must not let any girl take that prince away from you. From tomorrow, you're going straight to the palace to rehearse. We will not allow any village girl with jazz to snatch your husband. Melody screamed in excitement, spinning in her pink slippers. Yes, Mommy. Nobody will shine more than me. I'll enter that palace like a diamond. Ella quietly dropped her water by the kitchen door and sighed. The next day, Madame Veronica stormed the market like a woman possessed. She bought perfumed soaps, skin-brightening creams, oils from the north, gold-colored wrappers, anklets, and waist beads that jingled like wedding bells. By the time she returned, the compound looked like a beauty pageant training camp. Lie down, she barked at Melody. Lift your leg. Tilt your waist small, not too much. Yes, like that. Smile. No, not that one. Show small teeth, not all your 32. Turn. Bend. That's my daughter. That's how I trapped your father that year. Melody laughed and shook her waist, her mother clapping like a proud dance instructor. You see? No girl will beat you. You're the main event. From the corner, Ella swept silently, pretending not to hear. But her heart was loud, so loud she could hear her own pulse. Later that evening, as Madame Veronica powdered Melody's face and adjusted her wrapper, Ella gathered courage and whispered, Mama, please, I want to go for the dance too. You could have heard a pin drop. Madame Veronica froze, turned slowly like a Nollywood villain, her eyes narrowing. What did you just say? I said, I want to dance too. I know I don't have fine clothes, but I'll try. The slap didn't land physically, but her words cut sharper than one. Ella, are you okay? You want to compete with your junior sister? You want to spoil her chance? You don't have shame? Instead of helping her succeed, you want to drag her destiny with her? My friend, go and pound yam for your father's dinner before I remember you exist. Ella's lips trembled, but she said nothing. She just turned and walked quietly to the backyard. That night, while Melody soaked in milk and rubbed her glowing cream, Ella scrubbed the floor, washed her sister's clothes, polished her slippers, and cooked yam with red oil for the household. The smoke from the firewood made her eyes red, but she kept stirring the pot, whispering, Let today pass. Just let today pass. Inside, Madame Veronica was still giving her daughter last-minute advice. Melody nodded seriously, watching herself in the mirror. Mommy, should I wear the red wrapper or the golden one? Red, my dear, her mother said proudly. Let the prince see fire and forget other girls. Even if he blinks, your beauty must burn into his brain. Meanwhile, outside in the smoke and silence, Ella was boiling another pot of water, her eyes reflecting both the firelight and the tears she refused to shed. That morning, Ella's legs looked like she had wrestled with the road itself. Dust covered her from head to toe, her slippers were crying for retirement, and her cracked heels could grate coconut. She had just returned from a trip to the next village, barely breathing from exhaustion, when Madame Veronica's voice came flying like police siren. Where have you been since morning? You this slow snail of a girl. Ella bent her head slightly, her tone calm like she had rehearsed it. Ma, I went to get Melody's facial soap and the soap woman delayed. Did I send you to bring report? Go and boil hot water for Melody's facial steam before she wakes up. Lazy bones. Yes, Ma, Ella replied quietly, tying her wrapper tighter around her waist. She didn't argue. There was no point arguing with Madame Veronica. It was like arguing with thunder. No matter how you talk, thunder must still sound last. From the front yard, Chihima sat under the mango tree with his chewing stick. He had been sitting there since rooster time, same position, same face, same silence. The man saw everything. He heard every insult thrown at Ella, but he never said one word. He just chewed and watched like he was auditioning for Best Background Father of the Year. Later that evening, Ella returned from the market carrying fresh palm oil and coconut oil. As she stepped into the compound, voices floated from the veranda. Madame Veronica was chatting with their neighbor, Mama Blessing, her biggest gossip partner. "Abeg, leave talk," Madame Veronica said, laughing with pride. "My Melody is the most beautiful girl in this village. That prince won't even look at another face once he sees her. As for that Ella," she hissed dramatically, That one bad luck in human form. Even if she dances for one whole year, no royal man will pick her. Mark my words. Mama Blessing laughed so loud her wig almost shifted. You're saying the truth, my sister. Ella froze at the kitchen door, the bottles in her hand trembling slightly. But she didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just placed the oils quietly on the shelf and continued her chores. She was used to it. Pain had become part of her daily routine, like morning prayer. Days rolled in and out as the village itself was on fire with excitement. The bride selection ceremony was only 2 days away. Everywhere you turned, girls were bathing in oils like suya meat, scrubbing their bodies until they could see their own destiny shining in the mirror. Even perfume sellers had turned to mini millionaires overnight. Mothers were hustling more than their daughters, forcing them to practice walking with their necks tilted and smiles fixed like mannequins. But Madame Veronica had only one mission. Melody must marry that prince, by force or by jazz. Ella! She screamed one morning like thunder was paying her rent. Are you still sleeping while destiny is passing our street? Go and fetch water. Fill all the drums before my daughter wakes up. The future queen cannot be managing bath water. Yes, ma, Ella replied softly, already tying her scarf. She lifted the keg and headed to the stream, the road dry and dusty under the sun. But something felt off that day. As she walked, she noticed people were avoiding her like she was carrying bad luck in a bucket. One woman even dragged her daughter aside and hissed, "Shift! Don't let her shadow touch you. Some of these girls carry village spirit." Another added, "Ada, if she greets you, don't answer. You don't know where her bad luck came from." Ella swallowed hard, stepped aside, and allowed them pass. Her chest felt heavy, but she said nothing. Silence had become her only armor. Just before she reached the stream, she saw an old woman sitting under a huge tree, bent like a question mark. A bundle of firewood rested beside her. The woman's hands trembled, her lips dry like she hadn't had water since yesterday. Ella dropped her keg instantly and ran to her. "Mama, are you okay?" The woman shook her head weakly. "My daughter, my strength failed me on the way." Without hesitation, Ella ran to the stream, scooped fresh water, and brought it back. She helped the old woman drink, wiped her face with her scarf, and said, "Let me help you carry your firewood, Mama." The woman's eyes widened. "You want to help me?" Many have passed today, some even hissed. You were the first to stop. Ella smiled faintly. "Don't worry, Mama. I'll help you." She lifted the heavy bundle on her head, without complaining, and followed the woman slowly home. They reached a small, broken-down compound at the edge of the village. The yard was covered in weeds. The roof looked like it had retired. "Mama, your compound is dirty," Ella said, frowning a little. Before the old woman could reply, Ella dropped the firewood, grabbed a broom, and started sweeping like she owned the place. She cleared the weeds, chopped the firewoods, arranged the kitchen, and lit a fire for her. The old woman stood by the wall, blinking like she had just seen a ghost of kindness. "You have a good heart, my daughter," she said softly. "You will go far." Ella laughed a little, wiping sweat from her neck. "Go far? From the kitchen to the backyard, maybe." The woman disappeared into her room and came back holding a folded white wrapper and a string of coral beads that glowed softly in the sunlight. "My child, these were given to me by my mother," she said. "I was meant to give them to my daughter, but I have none. Take them, wear them to the royal competition. They will bring you good fortune." Ella froze, her eyes wide. "Me? Competition? Ah, Mama, I can't. My stepmother will never allow me." "Don't reject this one," the woman said gently, pressing the beads into her palm. "Sometimes blessings come wearing old clothes. Take it, show up. Let them see what goodness looks like when it dresses up." Ella's eyes watered slightly. She hugged the wrapper to her chest. "Thank you, Mama. If you ever need anything, ask for Ella, Chief Chima's daughter." The old woman smiled knowingly. "I know who you are, my dear, and don't worry. The gods know you too." Ella didn't understand what that meant, but she smiled anyway. As she walked back to the stream, she kept glancing at the white bundle in her hand. For the first time in a very long while, something beautiful had entered her life. Something she could call her own. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but that day, the orphan with cracked heels and dusty legs walked home like a queen in disguise, holding destiny wrapped in white cloth. The road home that day felt lighter for Ella. She hummed softly, holding the white cloth that wrapped the precious beads and wrapper from the old woman. For once, her steps had rhythm. Her heart had a little drum of joy beating inside it. But home, oh home, was waiting like a jealous ghost. Before she even reached the compound, Madame Veronica's voice sliced through the air like a market woman's bell. "Where have you been, you this wandering spirit? We've been waiting for water since morning." Ella dropped her gaze respectfully. "Ma, I saw one old mama on the road. She fell while carrying firewood, so I helped her get home." Veronica hissed loud enough to chase birds from the roof. "So now you're helping old women while we're roasting like yam inside this house without water. You've turned into village Mother Teresa, Abby? Nonsense." Ella blinked fast, her lips trembling. "She gave me this, Ma, a wrapper, and beads." Veronica's eyes instantly caught the shimmer. For a brief second, her face softened, but only because greed flashed across it like lightning. Then she composed herself. "Go and keep it safe, and go pound yam for your father before he starts shouting. You think this house runs on your charity?" "Yes, Ma," Ella whispered. She carried the wrapper and beads gently, placed them inside her late mother's old wooden box, and locked it carefully. As she pounded yam, she hummed quietly, pretending not to notice Veronica's suspicious eyes following her every move. That night, when the house went dead silent and the crickets began their usual useless choir, Madame Veronica tiptoed into Ella's room. Her wrapper whispered with each step. She moved like a cat trained by village witches. She opened the old box slowly, her wrinkled hands trembling, not with guilt, but excitement. The moment the wrapper and coral beads glowed under the moonlight, she smiled wickedly. "Perfect for my melody," she murmured. "Why waste good things on a hopeless girl?" She folded the gifts neatly and buried them under her own clothes, humming Jerusalema like a satisfied thief. By morning, Ella's eyes were brighter than the sun. She woke early, washed her face, and opened her box, only for her heart to drop straight to her knees. The wrapper, gone. The beads, gone. Her breath caught in her throat. "No, no," she whispered, searching frantically. She lifted her mattress, checked behind the box, behind the door, nothing. Panic rose in her chest like smoke. She dashed to Veronica's door and knocked. "Mama, please, my wrapper, my beads, they're missing." Madame Veronica didn't even look up from her mirror. "Then you were careless. You lost it." "But, Ma, I locked it in my box myself." "I beg, don't disturb me this morning. Go and find something to do before I find trouble for you." Ella froze at the door. Her throat tightened, her vision blurred. She walked back to her tiny room and sat on the cold floor. For the first time in months, she felt truly empty. That wrapper had been her little miracle, the one thing that made her feel seen. Now, it was gone like every other good thing in her life. That afternoon, she didn't eat. She didn't speak. She just stared at the wall, letting tears drop one after another like leaking roof water. Maybe they were right. Maybe she was cursed. Maybe joy simply avoided her address. The next day, before dawn, the roosters had barely finished their foolish noise when Madame Veronica was already tying her gold wrapper like she was about to attend her own coronation. Her perfume filled the air, choking anyone within 10 feet. "Today is the day," she said, admiring her reflection in a mirror. "My melody will dance her way into the palace, and me, Queen Mother in advance." She burst into laughter so fake, even her shadow rolled its eyes. Then her thunder started. "Ella!" No answer. She grabbed a wooden spoon and banged it against an iron pot. "If you don't wake up this minute, I will pour water on your body." Ella sat up slowly, her eyes heavy. Her back screamed for rest, but rest was a luxury in that house. She got up instantly. "Yes, Ma." The entire village was already in chaos. Mothers were shouting, daughters were screaming, drums were beating, goats were confused. Everyone was in motion. It was the bride selection day. In Madame Veronica's house, Ella was moving like a machine. She boiled water, mixed oils and perfumes till the whole house smelled like a beauty shop on fire. She massaged Melody's legs, rubbed her arms with shea butter, and helped her dress up in the very same wrapper and beads that used to be hers, the same ones that were gifted to her by the old woman. She paused briefly when she saw them on Melody's skin. Her heart broke a little, but she swallowed the pain quietly. "Press my waist," Melody yawned, scrolling on an imaginary phone. "You're too slow, Ella. Do it fast." Ella obeyed. She pressed. She smiled faintly. By the time they were ready, Madame Veronica looked like a golden balloon. Loud, shiny, and ready to burst. She turned to Ella. "Make sure you clean this house before we come back. The water drums are empty. Fill them. Wash all plates. Sweep everywhere. If I return and see one speck of dust, you'll sleep outside." "Yes, Ma," Ella said softly. Then, mustering small courage, she asked, "Please, Ma, since I'm not allowed to dance, can I at least go and watch?" Madame Veronica turned sharply like she had been insulted. "Watch what? So you can embarrass me with your village face? Sit down there and behave. Don't make me slap your destiny back to the bush." Ella lowered her gaze. "Yes, Ma." The moment they left, the compound felt emptier than usual. Even the chickens kept quiet, sensing her sadness. She carried her keg and started walking toward the stream, the sun just beginning to rise. The road was silent. Even the wind had gone on break. Only her footsteps whispered against the dry path. As she reached the stream, she bent down to fetch water, moving slowly, tiredly. That was when she heard it. Soft footsteps behind her. She turned. A young man was walking toward the stream. He wore a plain white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, brown trousers dusted with travel. He didn't look rich or proud, just calm. His smile was warm, almost familiar. "Good afternoon," he greeted politely. Ella flinched slightly, surprised. "Good afternoon, sir." "Please," he said, "can I get a little water to drink?" Without hesitation, she dipped her bowl into the cleanest part of the stream and offered it. He drank, sighed deeply, and smiled again. "Thank you." "You're welcome, sir. You're not like the others," he said, rinsing his hands. "Everywhere I go, people look at me like I'm a ghost." She chuckled softly. "You're new here. That's how villagers behave when they smell outsider." He smiled, amused. "You're right, I'm from the city. I came for the bride selection ceremony." "Oh, you better hurry," she said, laughing faintly. "They'll soon start dancing." He shrugged. "They can start without me." She frowned. "Why? Isn't that why you came?" He looked straight into her eyes. "Because I've already found something more interesting than a dance." She blinked. "N." He smiled mischievously. "You." She laughed awkwardly. "Please don't tease me. Me that people call bad luck." His expression softened. "Who told you that?" She sighed. "Everybody. My stepmother, some villagers, they say I'm cursed. That I belong to the kitchen, not the palace." He tilted his head. "And what do you believe?" She gave a sad smile. "I believe my place is fetching water and sweeping floors." The man stared at her like he couldn't believe his ears. "If the prince doesn't pick you, he must be blind," he said quietly. She laughed again, a sound half joy, half disbelief. "The prince won't even look at me, but I hope he picks my sister Melody. She deserves it." His gaze lingered on her face, on the gentle strength beneath her tired eyes. He reached for her keg. "Let me help you carry it." She blinked, confused. "No, sir, please. Handsome men like you don't carry water." "And beautiful women like you shouldn't be stressed either," he replied with a grin. They argued playfully until he won. Together they fetched water 5 times, laughing and talking like old friends. He told her about the city, about pizza, cinemas, and roads that shine at night. She listened with wide eyes, her smile glowing brighter than the sun. "I wish I could see the city one day," she said dreamily. "The city is tough, Ella," he replied. "Tougher than pounding yam at midnight." She giggled. "Ah, then I'm already trained." He laughed too. For a brief moment, their laughter filled the air, blending with the sound of the flowing stream. When they got home, he surprised her again by grabbing a broom. She nearly fell from shock. "Wait, what are you doing?" "Helping you clean," he said confidently. She burst into laughter. No, you can't sweep with straight legs. Bend small." He tried. He failed. They both laughed until tears rolled down her face. "You must be hungry," she said after catching her breath. "I don't have fancy food, but I can make roasted yam with sauce." "Perfect," he said eagerly. "I'll even wash plate if you do." She roasted yam, made pepper sauce, and they ate together on a mat outside. He licked his fingers like a satisfied child. She giggled shyly. But then a dog barked in the distance. Her smile vanished. "Please, you need to go," she whispered nervously. "If Madame Veronica catches you here or neighbors see us, it'll become a scandal." He nodded slowly, stood up, and gave her one last smile, soft, lingering. As he walked away, he kept turning back to look at her, each time smiling wider. And Ella stood there watching, her heart thumping quietly, like it had just remembered what happiness felt like. Meanwhile, at the royal palace, confusion. Total confusion. The bride selection ceremony had been going on since morning, yet the main man, the crown prince, was nowhere to be found. Girls had danced till their waists begged for mercy. Some even fainted halfway through their elegant performances. One poor girl lost her wrapper mid-dance, and the drummer still shouted, "Play on!" as if shame was part of the competition. But none of that mattered to Madame Veronica. Her daughter, Melody, was shining like the Lagos sun at high noon. Dressed in the same golden wrapper she'd stolen from Ella, she looked like she came out straight from a Nollywood fantasy movie. Her skin glowed with coconut oil, and her hips swung like she rehearsed every move in front of a mirror since birth. And Madame Veronica? She was in the audience, screaming louder than the MC. "Look at my daughter. She's the moon and the stars together. Royal blood, I told you." She was dancing with her head tie flying left and right like she was the one being auditioned. Other mothers side-eyed her with fake smiles. "One moon key? More like generator light." Another replied, "Still better than some people's daughters who dance like broken ceiling fan." Everywhere buzzed with rumors. "Maybe the prince is hiding," someone said. "They say he wants a humble girl." "Then he won't choose that one with hips speaking in tongues," another whispered. By the end of the day, a royal guard stepped out, holding a golden staff. His voice carried authority as he announced, "The chosen bride will be visited in a few days. Royal gifts will be delivered to her home." And that was it. No prince, no name, just suspense. Veronica screamed, clapping her hands together like someone who just hit a jackpot. "Didn't I tell you? My Melody is the one! Royal in-laws loading!" The crowd dispersed. Some hopeful, some angry, some planning how to borrow Jille for the next event. But inside the palace, it was war. The king was pacing the floor, chest heaving like a tired bull. "Where is my son?" he thundered. Just then, Prince Jake strolled in like he owned the air. His shirt was wrinkled, his feet dusty as a bot, and yet he had this calm smile that said, "I've seen things." "Where have you been?" the king barked. "We organized an entire ceremony and you vanished. How do you expect to pick a bride if you didn't even show up?" The prince bowed slightly. "Father, I've already found her." The king paused mid-anger. "Found who?" "The one I'll marry." "And who might that be?" the king asked, narrowing his eyes. "Her name is Ella," Jake said softly. "She lives in Chief Chima's compound. She gave me water when I was thirsty. She helped an old woman without knowing who was watching. She's kind, humble, strong, and she smiled at me like peace itself." For a few seconds the king just stared. Then a slow smile crept onto his face. "If she's who you say she is, then we've truly found our queen." He turned to the guards. "Send word to her family, take royal gifts, prepare the bride price, let the whole village know." And so the royal convoy set out. The next morning, the village woke up to chaos. This time, joyful chaos. People shouted, "Royal messengers! Royal messengers are coming!" Drums began to sound from nowhere. Children ran barefoot, chasing after the convoy as it approached. The guards came bearing yams, goats, fine wrappers, coral beads, jars of oil, bags of rice, and one huge chest that glinted with coins. When Madame Veronica saw them, she didn't even wait for explanation. She threw her wrapper over her shoulder and screamed, "Praise the Lord! My daughter has done it. She has hooked royalty. You see, my enemies are in trouble today." Chief Chima blinked like a confused referee. He hadn't even opened his mouth before Veronica started shouting, "I said it! My daughter danced like a goddess. The prince has eyes." The neighbors gathered. Some were clapping, others whispering like mosquitoes. One of the royal messengers stepped forward and read aloud, "The crown prince has chosen a bride from this compound. In 3 days, the royal family will return for the traditional wedding." That was all Madame Veronica needed to hear. She fell to her knees dramatically, wailing with joy. "Ah! I am now mother-in-law to the crown prince. God, you've done it again." Within minutes, she was running up and down, singing like she swallowed a church choir. "My daughter is going to the palace. My enemies, gather and watch." The villagers cheered, though some couldn't hide their jealousy. One woman whispered. If money were food, that woman would have eaten the whole village by now. While Veronica and Melody were celebrating like they had already relocated to Buckingham Palace, Ella was dying in silence. She worked from sunrise till moonrise, fetching water, washing plates, pounding yam, carrying firewood. Everything was dumped on her head. Her palms bled. Her eyes were red, yet she kept moving. Because if she dared rest, Veronica's voice would slice through her like a sharp cutlass. "Lazy girl, you think we're training you for marriage? Move before I move you." Melody, on the other hand, was being treated like fragile glass. She sat under shade while Ella cooked for her, fanned her, and even washed her feet. Veronica was always beside her, saying, "My queen, don't stress yourself. Real royalty doesn't fetch water. Let the servants handle it." Servants. That's what they called Ella now. Finally, the big day arrived. The compound looked like a carnival ground. Canopies lined up, decorations glittered, smoke from cooking fires filled the air. The smell of jollof rice and pepper soup danced through the breeze. Chief Chima was pacing around, smiling like a man who just won a lottery he didn't buy. Veronica was shouting commands like an army general. "Make sure the goat meat is soft. Arrange the chairs. Who put this ugly flower here? Remove it before I remove your head." Melody sat pretty, eating chin-chin while others worked. And Ella? She was wiping down plastic chairs, her sweat dripping into the dust. When she looked into the shiny surface of one chair, she saw her own reflection, tired, dusty, but still quietly beautiful. Just when she thought she could finally rest, Veronica's voice tore through the air again. "Ella, go and fetch firewood. The caterers are running low." Ella froze. "Ma, we still have enough firewood for the whole day. Please, I'm tired." Veronica's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You dare talk back? You know what will happen if you disobey me?" Ella swallowed her words. She dropped her rag, picked up her basket, and began the long, lonely walk toward the forest, while behind her, drums began to roll and laughter filled the air. A wedding feast was happening in her father's compound. But it wasn't hers. She walked past her father's compound that morning, balancing the basket on her head like she was carrying the whole world. Her legs were trembling, her palms raw from work, but she kept walking. She didn't want to look, but her eyes betrayed her. There was Chief Chima, her father, standing proudly in front of the house like a brand new landlord who just inherited an estate. His agbada shimmered in the sun, royal beads heavy on his neck. He was smiling like someone who finally won Father of the Year, even though everyone in the village knew he couldn't raise a broom for his daughter. Talk less of raising her. Ella's chest ached, but she said nothing. She adjusted her basket, tied her wrapper tighter, and kept walking toward the forest. Meanwhile, back in the village, preparations were in full swing. Drummers were warming up their talking drums. Children were scattering like excited chickens, and women were dusting off their finest wrappers. The long-awaited royal convoy had been sighted. The entire village lined the streets like a movie premiere. The royal guards arrived first, dressed in shimmering red and gold. Behind them came palace maids carrying golden trays filled with gifts. The drummers' beats were so sweet, even the oldest grandmothers began shaking waist they didn't know still worked. Then the crowd went wild as Prince Jake stepped out, tall, handsome, and shining like he swallowed sunlight for breakfast. He had that quiet charm that made girls sigh and mothers whisper prayers. Today was the big day. The royal family had come to make it official. The king and queen were seated under the royal canopy, their faces glowing with pride. Chief Chima was practically floating. Madame Veronica's smile stretched from ear to ear, her jelly tall enough to catch a network signal. And Melody, Melody was glimmering, the bride. She wore layers of rich wrappers and heavy coral beads that looked like she raided a treasure chest. A sacred veil covered her face, and her mother kept fanning her dramatically, whispering, "My queen, don't forget to smile softly when he lifts the veil. Smile like money." The drummers switched to a royal rhythm. The air smelled of roasted goat meat and palm wine. It was perfect. Until it wasn't. Prince Jake stood. His expression was calm, serious, unreadable. He took a few steps toward Melody and with steady hands lifted the veil. Then silence. Pure, holy, awkward silence. The prince blinked once, twice, then frowned. "What is this?" he asked, his voice slicing through the music. "Who is this?" People exchanged confused glances. Madame Veronica jumped forward, clutching her chest dramatically. "My prince, that is your bride, my precious daughter, the same one you chose at the royal ceremony. You even sent the bride price list, my lord." Prince Jakes shook his head slowly. His voice was calm but firm. "No, this is not my bride." The crowd gasped. "This is not the woman who gave me water when I was thirsty. Not the woman who helped a stranger without knowing I was a prince. The woman I want is Ella." You could almost hear the collective "ah" from the villagers echo through the sky. Even the drummers froze mid-beat. Chief Chima's mouth fell open like someone unplugged his voice. Madame Veronica staggered backward as if thunder had slapped her wig off. Melody, the bride, looked like a mannequin that just malfunctioned. The king rose, clearing his throat. "My son told me about Ella, the girl from this compound. It seems there was confusion in the message. Guards, go and bring Ella, the future queen of this land." Everywhere went silent. You could hear someone's heart beating 3 compounds away. The royal guards mounted their horses and rode off toward the forest. Far inside the woods, Ella was busy gathering firewood, her wrapper dusty, her hands trembling from exhaustion. Suddenly she heard hooves pounding the ground. Before she could move, a voice shouted, "There she is!" Startled, she dropped her bundle. Who are you people?" One of the guards dismounted, bowing slightly. "We are from the palace. The king, queen, and prince are waiting for you. Me?" Ella stammered, eyes wide. "Wait, what did I do?" "The prince has chosen you," the guard said simply. Her knees almost gave way. "Chosen me? For what?" "For marriage." She froze. The world around her went silent. She was too stunned to breathe. The same Ella that villagers called bad luck, the housemaid, the invisible one, now being called future queen. They lifted her onto the horse and rode back. Dust followed them like smoke from destiny's fire. When they entered the compound, the crowd parted like the Red Sea. People's mouths hung open. Some even pinched themselves. Prince Jake stepped forward, his face breaking into the kind of smile that could melt butter. "She's the one," he said proudly. "She's the woman I want to marry." Ella stood there, trembling. You're the prince?" He laughed softly. "Let's just say I was undercover. The man you met by the stream wasn't lost. He was looking for something real." Her lips quivered. "But I made you sweep and carry firewood." "And I'd do it again," he replied with a grin, "because that's the day I met my peace." The crowd erupted. The drummers returned to life, the rhythm booming louder than ever. The king raised his voice with pride. "The bride price has been paid. From this day, she is the prince's wife and the future queen of our kingdom." Madame Veronica almost fainted. Melody burst into tears, running into the house with mascara falling like rain. Chief Chima finally found his voice again and began shouting, My daughter has married the prince. Finally, she is free. The same man who once acted like Ella didn't exist was now calling her my daughter. Ella said nothing. Her eyes met his, calm but cold. As the guards escorted her into the royal carriage, the same villagers who once hissed at her now bowed so low their foreheads nearly touched the ground. That's her, they whispered. The same Ella we used to mock. God really turned her story around. At the palace, Ella was bathed, perfumed, and dressed in royal silk. Coral beads lined her golden bracelets, adorned her wrists. When she stepped out beside the prince, she looked like a goddess born from grace itself. People bowed as she passed. Madame Veronica and Chief Chima couldn't even look her in the eye. They would only murmur, Your Royal Highness, whenever she visited, their heads bowed low. And Melody? She locked herself indoors for weeks, too ashamed to step outside. Villagers mocked her mercilessly. After all your waist-shaking, your sister carried your husband. But Ella never let bitterness live in her heart. She forgave them all. She built Madame Veronica and Chief Chima a new house and gave them a monthly allowance. When people asked why, she simply said, If I wasn't sent to fetch water that day, I might never have met my destiny. She was glowing, happy, loved. And every time she walked past the village, even the trees seemed to bow. One day she returned to the old woman's hut, the same woman who had once blessed her. But when she got there, the house was empty. The old woman was gone. Only a faint scent of herbs and palm oil remained. Some said she was an angel in disguise. Others said she was destiny herself. But Ella, the girl who once fetched water and firewood while people mocked her, now sat beside a prince, proof that when grace locates you, no human can stop it. Hello, my beloved viewers, and that, my besties, is how Ella, the orphan everyone mocked, became the queen everyone now bows to. Life can turn around faster than NEPA light, so never look down on anyone, no matter how broke or dusty they look today. Moral lesson. God's timing might look slow, but when He moves, even your enemies will escort you to your blessing. What's yours will never miss you. It will only mature before it reaches you. If this story touched you, drop "Grace Will Find Me Too" in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional and dramatic stories like this. Love you, besties.